Welcome to Recovery Report Live. I'm Dan Odess, president of GlobalPro, where we manage risks to recovery. And we've managed more than $1 billion in recovery. And we've helped more than 1,000 business owners and community associations place insurance. We are your source for insurance information you can use. That's what this is all about. We want to make sure that you have the information you can use. Whether you're a policyholder, a business owner, or a community association, you are still a policyholder and you need this information every single week. Make sure that you're tuning in. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button, like us and follow us on all the social media platforms. Today, I want to get into a little bit of misinformation I'm hearing out in the market, as well as some of the trends that we're seeing. Just recently, there was a report that I saw with the Weather Channel where they're talking about migration of homeowners moving into areas that are more prone to disaster. Well, with the changing landscape in the insurance industry, that obviously creates an amazing amount of concern, right? What kind of insurance are they getting and where are they coming from? And are they used to dealing and preparing for disasters, whether that's wildfires in Colorado or hurricanes in the coastal area? If you're moving to an area that's prone to disaster, make sure you're practicing preparedness. What more relevant than the upcoming start of storm season? We're going to be talking a lot about that here on Recovery Report over the next few weeks, about how you can prepare your business and community association to prepare for the 2022 storm season. In a prior episode, we did talk about the predictions from the Colorado University that says that there's going to be above average, yet again, storm season. Does that mean that storms are going to hit the coast? We'll see. But no matter what, you need to be prone for natural disasters. And it's important, particularly if you have not lived in a disaster-prone area before. Make sure that you reach out to resources such as GlobalPro. Check out our website, our social media feeds. We're always putting out information about natural disasters, about how you can prepare for disaster, whether it is natural disaster or some other peril that may damage your property or business. So really important information. Make sure that you're checking that. What's also important for those that have migrated in these areas, there are changes in the insurance market. And right now we are seeing an enormous amount of misinformation about the market. In fact, there was a recent article in South Florida that was published in a very credible newspaper, some may argue differently, about the reaction by the insurance market to the collapse in Surfside. They were making an argument that we've seen increased insurance rates and a much more difficult market because of it. But the reality of it is that the increases in premiums and the difficulties in the market that we had seen predate the actual event, the tragedy that occurred in Surfside. That is the truth. I was already dealing with clients in the community association industry, as well as business owners that were dealing with hundreds of percentage rate increases who never suffered losses, some that have suffered losses. So some of the misinformation we had talked about on prior broadcasts was the connection between claims and rates and whether they're going up for businesses or community associations. And now we're seeing an outlet state that the tragedy in Surfside led to increases. And as you read down through the article, they seem to get away from this issue. It seemed to be just really clickbait, really in the title of this article, and unfortunately, that gives people the wrong impression yet again. It's almost like the public adjusters or lawyers are the reason why we're seeing rate increases. Meanwhile, the state of Florida is doing such a horrific job of policing the actual unlicensed practices of many individuals and doing anything about the fraud that runs rampant in some of these markets. But at the same time, legislators here lobbying for changes because they're seeing an increase in claims or increase in cost of litigation or whatever it may be. But if you look at the results of a lot of this litigation and the investigations, you don't see the same outcomes of which they're using to promote some of this anti-consumer language and laws, and it's just really not tying together and making a whole lot of sense. Similar to the article's title not really connecting with the body of the information that's contained within. Again, we're dealing with this issue. It seems to be the initiative of the insurance industry to try to, just basically rip all the coverage out of these insurance policies, charging more money than you've ever paid for insurance ever before. And you have the brokers and insurance agents that are peddling this idea that because you're having claims at your business or your community association, that you're somehow going to prejudice yourself or your rates are going to go up. But it's simple math, right? If you look at how much you've paid in premium over the years and you looked at how many claims you've had in the recovery, who's winning? I assure you it's more than likely the insurance industry and the companies that are selling the insurance. So when they're saying they're being gutted, their profits are losing, and you actually look at the companies that own these subsidiaries that operate either in the state of Florida or the United States, and you look at the billions of profits that they're making, and you're looking at the rise in the interest in their shares and their other investments, you have to stop and think about actually the information that's being peddled and used as the basis as to a lot of this anti-consumer and some of the issues that are allegedly plaguing our market in South Florida or the coastal area, whether it's Texas, and start to come to the realization that maybe there's not enough information about what is actually occurring on the consumer side, which interestingly enough, a report just came out this week that there's a massive trend towards dissatisfaction among consumers. Well, we're not surprised here at GlobalPro because we've been reporting this for the last couple of years. We've seen a huge trend in dissatisfaction when it comes to insurance, particularly on the claim side of things. People are growingly and increasingly more dissatisfied with how their claims are being managed. And this is not just a South Florida or a Florida issue. It's not a Texas issue or just a Louisiana issue. This is a national issue. Insurance companies are not properly managing the claims. They're not properly expediting the losses. We are seeing it everywhere. Just this past week in New York, we have a claim on a major loss at a commercial property, and the insurance company hires someone that is incredibly combative, calling, demanding that they see the property. We did a quick investigation into it. We find out they're not even licensed as an adjuster. And when we questioned the insurance company as to why they would engage in hiring someone that's unlicensed, they hired an attorney, coverage counsel, to get involved, who then told us to direct all communications to them. And then just switch gears as when we asked them if they are the adjuster in the claim to say, oh no, wait, send all the communications to the insurance company directly, but make sure you carbon copy us. But why? What did we do other than make sure that we protected the interest of our insured, the policyholder? We asked them why they are engaging in a practice of hiring, and the attorney went on to explain that this is something they do often, right? There's a general practice of the insurer to hire unlicensed adjusters to represent their interests. Now, when do we most often see this happen? It's typically after a major storm. In fact, after the 2017 storm season, Hurricane Irma, Maria, and Harvey, we saw an increase in the amount of times that we had an adjuster, or allegedly an adjuster, on a claim that was not actually licensed. Now, because of technology, and you can go on the websites in the state websites, you can check these things quite readily. So if you've suffered a claim, use technology to your advantage. Go onto the websites. Make sure that individual is actually licensed to represent the insurance company. And this is a great segue into our next segment and to bringing on our guest, our very own Josh Bochner. I want to bring Josh on to talk about tech, to talk about our tech week that we just had here in South Florida. There were so many amazing things. We got to attend several of the conferences. First, it was the Bitcoin conference, and then it was eMERGE. So, Josh, from your perspective, some of the takeaways. Let's talk about the Bitcoin conference.
Sure.
Good, the bad, the ugly. What'd you think about it?
Well, first, it's great to be back with you, Dan, and it's awesome to be in our new studio here in the Griffin Data studio. So Tech Week was great. Tech Month not Tech Week, was great. First conference we were able to attend was the Bitcoin conference, the Miami Beach Convention Center. It was great. The production of this conference, I think you would agree with me, was over the top. We had, I think, 3, maybe 4 different stages. They really utilized the exterior spaces. They had multiple bars, restaurants, food trucks, stages. So the production value of this was amazing. My takeaway from Bitcoin conference, invest in Bitcoin. Everyone seemed to be really bullish on Bitcoin, where it's going, the industry, cryptocurrency really coming in. There were some issues with how it's going to be regulated, how the legislature is going to handle it, how different countries are going to interplay with one another. But my takeaway was these industry leaders, these geniuses in their fields, everyone is really behind it. They're really confident in cryptocurrency generally and Bitcoin in particular. I wasn't so inspired that I actually bought some Bitcoin while I was sitting in one of the speeches listening to these brilliant minds speak. So my takeaway, invest in Bitcoin.
No, and it was funny too, as we were walking in, you said you invested, and it was like how many of the vendors were giving away some sort of cryptocurrency or access to it. I mean, I found, as amazing as the production was, I mean, that hall when you walked in, where they had all the main stage, if you will,
right,
was incredible. I mean, they must have had 100,000 chairs set up.
It looked crazy.
It was literally looked like an absolute massive arena. It wasn't until you got to the front did you see a lot of people, but It was just impressive just walking in. The production was just absolutely next level. I also found the conversation sometimes to be next level. A little over, I would even admit over my head, I would say most of the crowd there, I'd say more than half the content was very specific and very technical.
Yeah, to those high level individuals. The other thing that I would mention is the turnout at Bitcoin was unbelievable. I think they said they doubled their attendance from last year to this year, something like that, maybe a little less, 40% or so. But there was a huge turnout of people, not only from South Florida and the state, but the country and the world. I think I met people from Europe, from London, from Canada, and then of course people from all across the country. A lot of New Yorkers, a lot of Californians were here. So the turnout was amazing. It was a great event overall, I think.
No, I think it was really awesome. I mean, everything from the food trucks.
The food trucks were great.
I mean, and then you had when you went inside the vendor hall, there was just so much access. Everything from like art to new companies that are coming up to some of the technology and mining. Certainly a big focus on mining.
Yeah.
What that means to the environment. Some alternative ways of dealing with it. A lot of giveaways, a lot of prizes. Great conversation. Met a lot of really interesting people. Really just a great opportunity just to network and market. But there's so many things going on outside of the concerts. They turned this thing into just absolutely, if you haven't attended it, if you are in the tech field, if you're interested in cryptocurrency, I highly recommend it. Even though I did remark that some of the conversation is very high technical,
yes.
Certainly over, I would say, a gross majority of the people's heads. There were so many other little stages around that were providing so much more insight into definitely a big hot topic. You mentioned it, government regulation, and you had most people, I would argue, were saying that they promote the idea of regulation will actually give credibility to cryptocurrency, and they expect that actually to lead to a rise or increase in value in cryptocurrency. And you had less people that were more, and one of the panelists actually said it, less anarchist, if you will, total decentralization. You didn't hear as much of that. You actually saw the other side of it, more promoting the regulation of it.
Yeah, one of my takeaways from those discussions was really how by having legislatures and governments actually regulate this, it's going to give people who are in the industry a better, clear path as to where they can go with it, how they can utilize it, how it can be used. And then they have expectations when it comes to the legislation of what they can expect coming back onto them in investing, in owning these exchange companies. So it really was enlightening. The one other thing that I was going to say that I really loved was the vendor hall. Some of these vendor, stations or booths were unlike anything I've ever seen. The one that comes to mind, I don't know, was it Coinbase, the volcano, was just out of this world. I've been to a lot of these conferences a lot with you. It was like nothing I'd ever seen before. So that was really cool.
Yeah. No, so the other one is Emerge, right?
Emerge.
Totally different.
Emerge America.
From the moment that you arrive to check in to the conference itself, you can totally tell it's completely different. Let's talk about that. So what did you like? Yeah,
so Emerge America, also at the Miami Beach Convention Center, which is a great location for these types of conferences. I actually tended to like Emerge Americas a little bit better for a few reasons. One, it wasn't as well attended in the sense that there weren't 50,000 people there. So it's more intimate, it felt more intimate. You were much closer to the stage, and a lot of these talkers, they were much more approachable to be able to kind of go up to them and ask questions and kind of pick their brains. I had the honor and privilege of seeing a power couple give a speech on 2 different days, Alexis Ohanian, which I know you were there with me for, and awesome. Serena Williams, and just listening to Alexis speak about the Miami tech scene and the industry and where he sees it going was amazing. Again, for as many people that were bullish on Bitcoin, everyone is bullish on Miami and really being a tech hub. They're calling it the pathway to the Americas, right? For not only North America and Canada, but also South America and all these South American countries. Miami's really turning into this huge tech hub. But my takeaway from Emerge was really just, it was something that we could understand, right? Bitcoin, like you said, a lot of the conversations were high level. Emerge Americas, one of my favorite parts about it was the startup pitches. So they had basically a showcase, if you will, with all of these startup tech companies in 3 different stages, early, middle, and late stage, or university stage, as Emerge kind of categorized them. And watching these young entrepreneurs and tech geniuses pitch their ideas for investment was definitely one of the cooler things that I got to experience. And it also gave me a lot of insight into some tech projects that we're kind of working on here. So that was very cool.
No, it was awesome watching, a lot of young people just get up on stage, do their pitch. You had a number of universities, whether they were local Miami-Dade or throughout the state of Florida, that all had these massive booths at Emerge. Emerge, it was collegiate. It was just a whole different feel than you had at Bitcoin conference, and good for different reasons, totally different. Either way, ton of energy. Listen to Alexis talk. I mean, it was just very motivating. Got me pumped up. That's for damn sure. And I definitely feel, a big takeaway from Emerge, as you noted, Josh, was that the tech scene is here to stay. And Alexis was actually noted that he was early here in the South Florida market. Talked a little bit about that. How at first he was shunned for being in South Florida with a tech company or investing in a tech company.
Right.
And now it's become so mainstream. So we're excited, obviously, having our headquarters down here in Miami, being right in the center of the action where it's all happening. We were, obviously had to be there with our upcoming launch or re-release of Claims Calculator from Griffin Data Services, and I know Josh is working diligently on it.
Yes.
Very consumer-focused InsurTech application. We're excited. We're going to absolutely be able to count the difference, as the slogan goes, and we're excited about it to be a part of what's going on right here. That's why we attended these conferences. If you're even on the peripheral, if you're just on the edge, if you're involved in social media or any sort of type of tech, I highly, highly recommend you check out all these conferences. And there's so many conferences that are being launched, and these just aren't one-day events anymore. I remember when Emerge started, it was like a couple days, and it was, I believe the first one was in like a parking structure on Alton Road. To then see it in the convention center and the amount of vendors and involvement in it was just absolutely amazing.
The growth is amazing to see Emerge America in particular, but I think the biggest thing from Miami Tech Month is it's now a month-long event, and it's not going anywhere. If anything, it's growing. We see more people traveling down to Miami for certain events for the month to attend all these things. And like you said, Miami is here to stay in terms of being a tech hub. We are extremely excited to be launching our InsurTech application very soon. Soft launch coming soon, and then to the public very shortly after that. So stay tuned for that. And we're just really excited for the tech and to see where Miami Tech goes.
All right, we're going to count the difference, Josh. I'm excited about it. And speaking of counting the difference, that's what this is all about, the Recovery Report Live. Josh, thank you so much for coming on today.
Yeah, of course. Thank you.
All right. Well, we're going to keep on reporting on tech issues. We're going to be reporting on insurance issues, information you can use. That's what the Recovery Report Live is all about every single week. We have on guests like Josh. Last week we had our first guest live here in the Griffin studio talking about insurance issues, why your board can make decisions. If you're a community association manager, definitely go check that out. If you're a business owner, there's also great information in the beginning of that where I talk about some of the issues that are plaguing our insurance market. And the reason why I continue to harp on those things, I don't want to beat a dead horse. I don't want to sound like downtrodden about this. I actually don't think the market is as bad as it's being painted to be, and I think that they're painting it that way because they're using it as a springboard for a lot of this anti-consumer legislation, and I want to be the voice against it. I think if the state of Florida spent more time enforcing the laws that are already in place, then we'd be in a much better spot by trying to pass some of this anti-consumer legislation, whether it's actual cash value issues, schedule of payments on roofs, some of the erroneous legislation for community associations related to inspections, stuff like that. I don't think it's going to help, and I think it's going to create more confusion and more issues in the market. So let's do the right thing. Let's start looking at these things optimistically. Let's look at what we already have and see how we can use that to hold people more accountable, and that includes the insurance companies, because the trend is in the direction of dissatisfaction, whether it's obtaining insurance or the claims process. But that's what we do every single week here at the Recovery Report Live. We talk about these important issues. We bring them to the forefront. So continue to tune in. If you haven't already, like us and follow us on all the social media. Hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on our broadcast. We'll see you next week, same place, same time, 11 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, right here on the Recovery Report Live.